Commissioners, I'll now call the work session, January 29th for the February 3rd, 2026 meeting. And the first item we have is our financial recap with Finance Director Alicia Searcy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have before us the December 31 financials. And I'm going to just start by going over the revenue and kind of where we are about halfway through the year so you can get an idea of maybe where we're headed toward the end of the year. At the end of December, we had total revenue collected of $58,456,013. Looking at each line item, our general property tax to date, we're running about 3% ahead of last year. On our local option sales tax, we're running about 6%. Our insurance premium tax came in at about 12% over last year. And then our local energy tax is running about 5% higher than last year. And if you look at our license and permits, that's running about 13% over last year. Our charges for services are running about 4% over last year. Now, we did have a budget increase of about 4%. So as we stand right now, I think we're going to be pretty close to meeting that budgeted number. On our cash, well, let me go back. On those revenues, we're at 68.4% of budget collected. Last year, we were at 68.29%. And on expenditures, if we take out capital purchases, we're at about 50.1%. So we're running right where we should be, even though last year we were a little lower at 46.7% on our expenditures. On our cash balances, the general fund is showing a cash balance of $58,218,898. That's $2.6 million lower than the same period last year. And other funds are running pretty well in line. On our splost expenditures, we had $221,000 going out on the Judicial Center that just about wrapped up all the work over there. We had $56,000 on the administration building, and then we bought some vehicles for IT at $87,000. And some expenses at the sheriff's office for $22,000. Most of that was the planning on the new sheriff's office and jail facility over there. And fire, we had $23,000 that we spent with Motorola on some radio equipment. And then Public Works, we spent a total of $255,000 there for LMIG and gravel was the two big purchases there. And then on the solid waste transfer station, we spent $804,000 there. So we're moving right along on that project. And then on the 15 spliced, we spent $1,789,000 on the admin out of that payment to Balfour Beatty. So that's a summary of our expenditures and revenues.
Okay, if there's no questions, we'll move into the agenda, the items to talk about on Tuesday night. So I will be making a formal motion on Tuesday night to amend the agenda. So first of all, item 10, consent agenda. There will not be a consent agenda on Tuesday night. Under the business session 11.1, which is the abandonment of Woodland Drive, that cannot go on consent. We won't be having a consent, and that will be discussed on Tuesday night. And then 11.3, the sale of a small, narrow strip of land at 74 Industrial Boulevard will be postponed to the March meeting. And then 11.5, we have a consideration of a proposal for RFP REC 26-A001 for outdoor lighting and electrical renovations for the recreation complex located at 1201 Noonan Road from J&R Construction and Development, Inc. for $3,467,000, well, and $357, and authorize the chairman to negotiate and execute, my goodness, the contract and take all their actions in connection with this project. And the source of funds would be $2,338,000 from the Capital Projects Fund and $1,130,000 from the 2021 SPLOST. So when we get to 11.5, we have the Recreation Director here, and Frank, who's with Southern A&E that we had hired back in the spring and then helped us with the RFP. And I would like to say I appreciate Commissioners McClendon and Fuller and Hicks in working with Thad and Frank earlier this week to really understand the complexity of this project and exactly what phases we want to do with it. So thank you all. So the first thing we'll move into is the abandonment. We'll skip that. That's Tuesday night. So 11.2 is the sale of a small, narrow strip of land on Mill Street in Bowden, Georgia. And I'm going to call Avery Jackson, the county attorney, to present this item, and I'm sure Commissioner Bailey will want to add some comments for us on this.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. We have for you a resolution for the sale of a small or narrow strip of land located in Bowden on Mill Street. This property is approximately 0.1299 acres, which is about 5,500 square feet. So it's a very tiny little parcel. When we check the title to the parcel, we don't even find that the county has good title. We believe it's probably left over from where Mill Street was either moved or widened or cut in, and so it's a little remnant. We were approached by one of the neighbors. If you see the block building or brick building located on the adjoining property, the neighbor, Lance Author, has purchased that property, wants to build a house on it. That property is currently accessed through an easement over the neighbor's property, and if he is able to acquire this property from the county, he'll have his driveway go across this property instead of his neighbor's property. So that's the purpose of the request. Under the law, that usually the county would have to auction or take sealed bids for any property the county's selling. There's an exception for that for small or narrow tracts of land that are unusable as currently zoned, which this one is too small to do anything with. And so in that case, the county is allowed it to sell it to an adjoining property owner as long as all the other property owners have been offered on the same terms. And in this case, all the adjoining property owners have been and have signed off on the sale to this neighbor for the property. The county did require the applicant to pay for a survey, and you have that survey before you because it was not a surveyed tract, and also required the neighbor to obtain an appraisal from an appraiser of the county's choice, and that appraisal came back at $900, and that's where the value for the property came from. And happy to answer any questions you might have.
Avery, I don't really have any other questions. You and I have worked on this for a little while, and I appreciate the work on that. I have talked to one of the adjoining property owners. They are in agreement to sale. I have not talked to all of them in there, but it is just a small abandoned piece of property. There's nothing else can be done with it.
Okay, well, we'll have this on the Tuesday night agenda. Thanks. Okay, 11.4, because 11.3 is being postponed. 11.4 is the ACCG Summer Intern Grant. We've been lucky. Last year we had 2 interns that are fully funded by ACCG, and so this year we went back and asked for one to help with the IT department. So this is a consideration for an approval to accept a grant from ACCG Civic Affairs Foundation, the amount of $3,259.50 for a IT technician internship to be worked with the IT department, and to authorize the chairman to enter into the grant agreement and take all other necessary actions in connection there within. So if y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm excited for Jacob to get some help. Okay. All right, 11.5 is the proposal on the RFP. So I'm going to call Thad Ferguson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to get on the agenda today. Get the right folder. So over the past year, as you know, we've been working on the electrical and light upgrade at the recreation complex. Southern A&E was selected by the Board of Commissioners in March to help guide with this project. October, we approved an RFP to go out. And up to that point, plans have been drawn, the bids have been received, and the evaluation committee has met to go over the results. We are asking the project evaluation committee, along with myself, is recommending J&R Construction as the contractor for this project in the amount of $3,467,375. Stress-Crete, which is the pole manufacturer of the light poles, will be replacing 5 light poles as part of their warranty. Carroll County will have to purchase 1 light pole that is out of warranty. And then I was able to speak with Mike at Carroll County Schools and Mike at Fayette County Schools just in reference to J&R Construction and some of the subcontractors that J&R is using on this project. They've worked with both of those county schools to do similar projects, and both references came back positive. So Frank and I are here tonight to answer any questions related to this project the best of our ability.
I got a couple questions on this thing. My number one question, like I talked with you about the other day, is explain,
Mr. Frank Campo, Southern A&E.
Explain your role so everybody understands exactly what you're doing and then what the general contractor is. And where I'm headed with this is, at the end of this project, when it's said and done, if we have an issue a year from now or 2 years, who's responsible? Is that you or is that going to be the general contractor?
Okay. So Southern Architects and Engineers is a full-service A&E firm. We provide professional services for this project. We performed an assessment of the existing facilities, wrote a report about that, and then performed a design for the replacement of the electrical infrastructure and the field lighting. We'll continue to work with this county in order to provide construction administration services. So as the construction progresses, we will have regular representation for field observation. We will have our field agents at the project meetings, observing, meeting with Thad, meeting with the contractor, coordinating, processing pay requests as the project progresses and that type of thing. As the electrical engineer for the project, all of the materials that will be used on the project, they'll submit data sheets to us for review that will be part of your final project documentation. So, to answer your question, who will be responsible? We as Southern A&E won't be on the project site continuously, but we will make regular observations. We'll provide you guys with field reports of what we observe. We will do everything that we can to make sure that the contractor holds to enforced code, to the requirements of our contract documents, which are the plans and the specifications. And when they don't, we will make note of it and make it right. So, with respect to having issues moving down the road, the specified lighting system and the controls associated with it are covered by a 10-year performance warranty through the manufacturer. So if any of those lighting instruments or the controls stop functioning during that warranty period, they will know about it, you will know about it, and they will provide the materials for the replacement. The contractor's warranty for this project is specified to be 1 year. So anything that happens during that 1 year period that's a coverable occurrence will be corrected by them. And as Southern A&E, we'll be here at any time you guys need
Okay. So just make sure I'm clear. So if you walking around out there and you're inspecting their work as they do it and you run into a problem, you're going to be responsible for talking to them, making sure it gets
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's one of our roles.
Because I think we've run into some issues out there, or looks like there might have been some work, it wasn't quality work out there from standing poles up and other areas, and we don't want to go, I don't want to go through that again. And so I was just looking for who's going to be
Understand.
responsible. It's checking on that for us, for the county, and I thought that's going to be your role, and I just want to make sure that is
Yes, sir.
what we agreeing to here.
Indeed.
And I think it, can, just for the public record, this is a complete overhaul of the entire lighting system at the rec department. Every field, track, football, baseball, soccer, it's a complete overhaul.
Correct.
Wires in the ground, in conduit. There's no more arcing wires, there's no more splice junction boxes. It's a complete redo.
That's correct.
And the oldest part of the lighting system is how old?
96, roughly,
So 30
27 years old.
You said 96?
1996.
Oh, 29. yeah.
96. So the oldest is 30 years, probably the newest is what, the '08 era?
Correct.
Okay.
And it won't be everything. We are attempting to reuse as many of the concrete poles that we're able to. In the inspection that Stress-Crete performed late in the year last year, they did identify a number of poles that they considered critical, and those are the ones that they are replacing under warranty, except for one concrete pole, which will also have to be replaced. The contractor also will be repairing spalling and cosmetic issues on the poles that were identified as well. So that is also included in that bid price.
Ms. Sandra, if you'll do the underground wiring photo. So this was, just kind of in reference, so this was a picture that was taken during I guess this was an erosion kind of between the pond field and the black field. So what you see are probably 7 or 8 pieces of wire that are underground. So 90% of the complex, probably even more than that, is direct burial. So like you were saying, Mr. Hicks, everything would go into conduit. This type of stuff would be cut off, replaced, and we wouldn't, be digging, trying to fix something and potentially come across exposed wire like that, so.
And would this be normal, this picture, would it be normal practice that that's the way that wire should have been installed?
That wire is rated to be installed, not in conduit. That's why they call it direct burial cabling. I think that it's a poor option for sports lighting installations, because if you ever do have an issue with the wiring, you cannot pull it out. You have to rebury it. Burying all of those in that proximity to one another, all in bundled up, doesn't adequately allow the conductors to cool when they have current going through them as well. So it's not a practice that I usually specify. I try to encourage clients not to do something like that, but that type of installation, as long as you had proper coverage of the conductors, would not be illegal.
Well, that picture to me represents what I'm talking about is quality of work and who's going to be responsible for it.
Sure.
Okay. A couple other questions I got. So based on your 2 recommendations then, when this project started, if I remember right, it was roughly about $400,000. Now we're about $3.5 million. So you telling me this is what we need to do to fix that problem and be done with it out there? That's both of your recommendations.
100%. And in the scope,
Yes, sir.
the scope has changed a lot since it originally
has.
started.
Okay.
But
And I
this
got-
would, from a safety standpoint, and a functionality standpoint, and something that's going to last for a long time, this is definitely a good recommendation.
I got one question for Ms. Searcy, please. As you and I talked yesterday, you feel confident we got the money that we can shuffle around and move from one place to the other to cover this project and be okay?
I do. We've got some money that will result in the savings on the admin building that we can pull out of Spliced. And then we have some additional funding in the capital projects fund on projects where we saved money and didn't expend everything that had been allocated for those projects. So I think we've got funding to do the full project.
Okay. Thank you for your time. That's all I got.
I have some questions for the commissioners that served on the committee. I was just curious of y'all's take on the alternate deducts and the alternate adds that was in the proposal? Did y'all have a recommendation, or did you have consensus about each of those particular items?
So we didn't have the proposal when we met. We just had, kind of the top number. They gave us 3 different options, which were the 1.1, or, the million that we allotted to begin with a couple months ago. We had option B, which was doing everything but the football track and
Or football, that would, Black and Pond and football.
there was and that's where most of the damage and the shoddy work, to say the least, is. And then the third option is the full blown out project, all new everywhere. And that was our consensus, was just rip the Band-Aid off, put it all in new, have a, state of the art, really nice rec department for, the county to enjoy, and hopefully, like me and you talked, Thad, bring in some outside travel ball tournaments here and there that generates revenue throughout the county.
Correct.
Clint, he can explain it better than I can. We talked about doing different sections. You got them divided, did you call them pods?
Sections.
Sections.
So based on the RFP.
Yeah, explain that.
So on the RFP, there's 5 different sections. And basically, they're kind of broke into service sections based on electrical
service,
services.
Yep.
But they're kind of, we'll tag team it, but we've kind of got them, there's a softball section, what we call our upper fields, the lower fields, which encompasses 3 fields. Black and Pond are tied together. Football is separate. And on the other side of the creek, near the gym, you've got the orange field, the track, and multi-purpose, and that's one section. So each one of those, we kind of prioritize the important ones, which baseball, softball, soccer are our biggest three sports. And then the way the other 2 are laid out, just kind of broke them into those electrical sections that were already there. Does that answer your question, Mr. Steve?
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, you bid it out with the ability to do this in phases or to only take up certain portions or not, and that was done in an alternate add and alternate deduct. I was just wondering there's always the consensus, if you have the money, you want to do everything, but I just wondered, if there had been an analysis of what each one of those looked like, because, I mean, it is significant money. Deduct $890,000, deduct $418,000, deduct $250,000, deduct $626,000. I'm not saying that's what we have to do, but those are major components of big money that we would have the option to deduct. As far as this company that bid, is it the only company that bid on the project?
Yes.
That is correct.
Do you believe is that indicative of anything as far as the RFP, or do you believe that, what would be your answer to that we only had one bid?
Sure. So we had a pretty decent amount of interest at the pre-bid meeting. I think we had about 17 people there. We had a couple of manufacturers' representatives from sports lighting systems from China. We had a couple of other sports lighting manufacturers represented. We had some general contractors. We had some sports lighting installers. We had multiple employees from the same company. So the team that bid on it consists of 4 of those attendees, maybe even 6, because some of those companies had a couple of them. So all of these companies are local companies in Carrollton. We have, before we received the bids, I called around to the employees that attended the pre-bid meeting to gauge interest and try and encourage them to turn numbers in, to make a bid, to make a proposal. And I think that some of the general contractors that are also in Carrollton would have liked to team up with the same electrical sub and the same sports lighting vendor that J&R had teamed up with. So, they kind of had already selected a dance partner, to say that. So, we did have a lot of interest. I think that sometimes it's just only, a certain number of contractors turn in a proposal.
Didn't you say the lighting company, they only have, you can use approved vendors, and there's not very many of those?
So
we talked about that.
Well, Musco Lighting is the manufacturer that this contractor has decided to use in their submittal. They don't necessarily restrict their bidders, but they do have working relationships with a number of different electrical contractors and lighting installers. So, I don't know that they are restrictive though, so.
When we originally looked at the lights, it was basically said that it was the Cadillac of lights. Is it the same type of lights that are being proposed in this proposal?
It is.
Okay, so it meets all of the shadowing and the different pool lighting you were talking about, you had concerns about? Okay. Well, I would like to look over the information. I don't necessarily have a problem, but there's a big, there's a big gap of doing everything versus the alternate deducts. And I know we just got the information, so I'd like some time to review it and then hopefully meet with you before the meeting next week. Thank you.
One other question. So back to the bid, so you had no bids from anybody outside the county as far as contractors and stuff like that?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I want to follow on Commissioner Chance. They gave us we looked at three options. One was about 1.3, and that would do the lower field.
Oh, yes, sir.
Just the lower field, and then if we went to 2.8 million, I wrote down big three. I can't remember what the.
That is correct. So that would be the baseball, softball, soccer kind of area.
Okay, 6 baseball fields, softball field, and then you would use 200,000 from reserve in that. Is that what you said?
Roughly, that is correct, to complete that
and
phase.
the option 3 was to do everything at 3.5. And I want to follow on to something that Commissioner Bailey asked. 3 years from now, if a light fixture falls off a pole, who's responsible?
I think if a light fixture falls off the pole, the person who hung that would be responsible, but,
I mean, we're going to send one of our lawyers to go talk to somebody. Who are they going to go talk to?
I mean, I guess what I'm getting at, and it sounds like Steve's that same thing for me. And I'm trying to figure out how to say this politely as I can, but I just say it. I'm tired of paying big dollars to people that are not being held responsible for counties when they're doing projects. We got some big projects going now across the road. We got a jail project going now. This. At the end of the day, I want somebody responsible for when we have problems that they're going to be held accountable. They don't mind sticking their hand out and getting that check, so I need to make sure somebody's going to be there to fix the problem.
yes, sir.
That's just as simple as I know how to put it.
I understand. Southern A&D oversees hundreds of millions of dollars worth of construction in our design, and we have contract administrators that are out on these sites doing this type of work. So, I certainly understand you want to represent the money that Carroll County spends on each and every project. But, holding contractors accountable to the code and to the construction documents, that's one of the things that we do in our contract administration.
Okay.
Yep.
And to piggyback on that, that was brought up, and that was one of the things that we spoke to Thad about specifically, because I told him Clint has worked extensively with IT department and things like that, and make sure our IT department can be responsible for any infrastructure that we're putting in, and they know what's going on, and they can get to it and fix it, and be responsible to holding whoever's responsible, whoever holds these warranties, their feet to the fire. And I know our guys have done a great job at doing that, and that's one of the things we told Thad, like, hey, you're the director out here. You're going to have these warranties and access to people. You're going to, one of the responsibilities is yours. You know what I'm saying? I know my role as a director, I handle my facilities. Something goes wrong, that's me. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to go find the person who hung something or did something or didn't do it right. And that's, one thing that he assured us yesterday, that he would, as long as he's in this role, he will make sure that he takes care of everything and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. And if something does go wrong, we're going to get the right people out there. Because I totally agree. If we're going to spend the money, and we have these warranties in place, we're going to use the warranty.
I agree.
We just want to make sure that we got some honorable subcontractors that don't evaporate once the project's over.
Right.
And I've got some other questions. Thad, how many lights total are on that place right now?
448, 449, somewhere around there.
And how many?
We'll say 450.
And how many of them are not working?
Either out or fading away. When we last counted this before the fall season, there's about 125. So we'll do another assessment.
Almost a quarter of them.
Yes, sir.
Not working. Okay, and you can't, these are mercury vapor lights?
These are HID bulbs, so more of
Primarily high-pressure sodium and metal.
Okay,
metal
metal
halide.
halide.
so they're not LED?
No,
They
sir.
are not.
And the fixtures, you can't, well, you don't unscrew a light bulb on those, but the fixtures that are there won't support an LED light. Is that what you're telling me?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, and we got to replace how many poles?
6.
6 total, one that we have to replace, 5 that are under warranty.
Okay, so we're gonna have to pay for how many? One?
1.
Okay, all right. Well, guys, I'm seeing a safety issue with the lighting right now. I mean, I've seen fields in high school baseball. If you're gonna certify a field for play, somebody has to go out with a light meter, and the Georgia High School Association says you gotta have this many looms in a specific spot, and it can't vary one spot, I mean, not by much. It's got a formula that they go by. So if you got a quarter of your lights out, it sounds to me like we got a little bit of a safety issue going on out there.
100%.
Okay. That's all I've got.
There's been a lot of discussion today talking about oversight, warranties, and different things. There's multiple facets of the liability culture, but essentially, our owner's rep, you're going to be the oversight, but the liability, if we want to talk about real liability, really doesn't lie with you. It's going to lie with the general contractor, and it's going to lie with the subs, and it's going to lie with the product warranty. So I guess to go a little bit deeper into the questions that were asked, with the commissioners asking what is your role or your responsibility, what kind of protocol do you have in place on the owner's rep that maybe you sign off after a certain phase is done and you personally sign off on that? Because in the real world, you can sit and say all day long, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but the real liability, not saying that we couldn't come after you if we think that you were negligent in your work, but the real liability is just the others that I mentioned. It really is not you. So being the owner's rep, what are you going to do to show that you're doing everything that you can to watch out for our interests?
Sure. As I mentioned, our contract administrator will be at the job site regularly, observing the construction. He will provide a field report every time that he's out there, so there's a record of his visit, there's a record of what's happening at the job site at a particular time, and so on. As the project closes out, I'll make site visits as necessary when an area is close to being done or near or finishing up, and be able to observe the final conditions. And I'll prepare a final inspection report, final observation report, and we will, at the end of the project, certify that in general the project complies with the construction documents.
But that document that the field rep is going to sign, they're not just going to sign it and say, I was here today. They're going to sign off and understand what work was being performed that day.
Yes, they will acknowledge that. It will be documented with photos and statements of today I visited the site. They're, replacing these panels, they're building a fence, they're, doing the horizontal directional drilling in these areas, pulling cables, et cetera, documenting the progress of the construction. And when there is an item that doesn't look right, they call me. We talk about it. If necessary, I go out to the site and look at it, that day or that week as necessary.
I don't remember your contract right off the top of my head, but is it in your scope of work that there's going to be some kind of post-report that will summarize maintenance of lights, warranties that are staged, so that we're not going to a portfolio with 497 documents when something goes wrong and we don't know what to follow?
Sure. So that closeout documentation will be provided by the contractor with the assistance of the manufacturers, and they'll gather all that together. We'll review it and make sure that you get it. I can't tell you that it won't be 497 pages, because it probably will, because it's usually very thorough, because it includes, the types of equipment, cut sheets on the equipment, shop drawings, operation instructions, maintenance and repair manuals sometimes, so it can be sometimes long. We can get it in electronic form if that helps.
Thank you.
Mr. Skipper's department will be doing inspections too, won't he? Won't he be looking over the project also, inspections?
And we'll be there, I mean, obviously, we're there every day, so as we're walking around, if we see something that looks weird or strange, we'll call Frank or call Ben and say, hey, can you put eyes on this just to make sure this looks right? Obviously, electrical is not my expertise by no means, but I have learned a little bit with Mr. Newt. You know, he taught me some electrical, some household stuff, but this is a little bit more dangerous than that. But if we see something while we're there, you know, that looks weird or looks off, we're going to make those phone calls as well, just to say, hey, is this right, or does this need to be checked on?
Okay, so I'll recap for Tuesday night. So we will not have a consent agenda. We will have 11-1, which will be the abandonment of Woodland Drive. We will have 11-2, the sale of a small narrow strip on Mill Street in Bowden. We will have then the item 4 is the ACCG Summer Intern Grant. And 11-5 will be this proposal for the lighting at the rec department. And there will not be an executive session. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you.